You are watching What's Up Punta Cana with Christy Maggio, una americana italiana en la República Dominicana since 2013. A teacher at heart, but her curiosity has sparked new opportunities. Director, businesswoman, humanitarian, talk show host. La curiosa directora has decided to become the student. Go behind the scenes to get a closer look at what this country is all about. And Cher is here with you. So, if you love everything Dominicana, stay tuned. This is What's Up Punta Cana with Christy Maggio.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of What's Up Punta Cana with Christy Maggio. I hope everyone is doing well. This week, I have another incredible interview to share with you all. I really keep on getting some fabulous guests on this show, and I'm truly blessed. And tonight will be no different. Tonight's interview is with CEO of President Summit, Frederik Linderberg. Now, if you're wondering, what is President Summit? President Summit is Northern Europe's leading business conference, and it is where you can meet and learn from some of the world's top leadership experts. Frederik will share with us the mission and vision of the summit, which is to inspire and connect like-minded individuals who want to advance and prosper in the global market. Learning from the top achievers, hearing their stories, experiences, and advice is truly priceless. So if you are looking to obtain lasting success, be more innovative, grow and evolve with the changing times, you will want to be a part of this event. For more than a decade, President Summit has provided actionable insights, inspiration, and a platform for networking to its community. What started as a small conference is now Northern Europe's leading business conference. It attracts over 3,000 attendees from over 50 countries. The summit this year is June 7th and 8th in Copenhagen, Denmark. And in the past years, they have had some incredible speakers, and this year won't be any different. So without further ado, I present to you Frederik Linderberg, CEO of President Summit. I'd like to welcome you today to What's Up Punta Cana with Christy Maggio. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to have this wonderful and amazing interview with you. I'd like to start with a little bit of your background because you have quite a resume for such a young age.
First of all, Christy, thank you so much for welcoming me and thank you for doing this. I think the podcast serves a purpose similar to what we try and do at President Summit, which is inspire and help people. And that is something that I and the President Summit team will always be supportive of. It's entirely my pleasure. Yes, my name is Frederik. I'm the CEO of President Summit. I joined President Summit a little over a year ago, about 15 months ago. I was a master's student in Denmark, where I'm from. I have a bachelor in business. I've gone to Columbia University in New York as well, and then came back to do my master's in Denmark. And I have finished 1 year. So in Denmark, the master's degree is 2 years. I finished 1 year, and then I was reached out to by a highly successful Danish serial entrepreneur called Mads Fagerholt, who I knew, being a Danish business student. I knew his accolades and his resumes and so forth. And he reached out and offered me to partake in this journey and join the President Summit and what they were trying to build. And I was truly inspired by what his vision was and what the purpose of the President Summit was, which essentially is to create a platform that gathers business leaders from all over Europe, taking place in Denmark. So he and myself were very inspired by the World Economic Forum, which takes place in Davos every year. It gathers some of the world's largest business leaders to facilitate discussions around the business agenda for tomorrow. I think that serves a fantastic purpose. The only downside to it is you need to own a private jet basically to be invited to the party. And not to speak ill of the World Economic Forum, because it is a fantastic event, but some of the content might be a little old school. It's very much panel discussions, sit down, and situations like that. Whereas if we look towards TED and what TED does, it's fantastic content. It's so inspiring. Keynote speakers, they're very enlightening and everything. So we thought to ourselves, let's try and do something that combines the two of them, meaning content-wise, provide an experience like TED, but gather and serve the purpose similar to the World Economic Forum, but something that is available to everyone. So that is what we're trying to build at the President's Summit. It was usually a very closed arrangement for executive people, high executive people in Denmark. We then grew the conference to about 1,000 people in May 2019, then to 2,200 people in November 2019. And we're supposed to welcome our first ever annual and not biannual conference over the course of 2 days here in 2020 for more than 3,000, both leaders, entrepreneurs, investors, and policymakers, with concerts by artists such as legendary R&B singer Craig David and world famous Danish rock band DAD and so forth. But obviously due to the global pandemic, which has hit all of us, we've had to postpone that till next year. But that opened up for, new great opportunities, which is one of them is our global masterclass series, which you have experienced firsthand, Christy. So that's sort of where I came from and where we are currently at.
Yes. And so let's talk about those masterclasses a little bit, because I have found, at least myself, through many different platforms at this moment, that a lot of people who are in these higher positions are offering different master classes, and who best to learn from than those that have made it to the top and their story and how they got there. And some of them are just incredible. And I had the ability to do the one with Jim Kwik, and that has in a week changed my life, and a couple of my students' lives as well. However, tell me more about the master classes. What made you decide to do it, and how can people participate in moving forward in this?
Yeah, certainly. So the whole idea behind the Global Masterclass series was that we saw back in April, May 2020 here that a lot of companies in the world were struggling, right? Corona started to hit really badly. People were being fired left and right. Companies were going bankrupt left and right. And we felt an obligation as a business community to all our, I want to call them members, because I feel like they're almost members of the President's Summit, but all of our customers, all the people who tune in, sign up to our newsletter, follow us on a weekly basis, to help them with knowledge and inspiration throughout this very, very difficult and unpredictable time. And we wanted to do it free of charge, so it could be free for any one of our members, but also really anybody who the word might spread to. So I reached out to, I want to call him a good friend of mine, but a speaker named Marshall Goldsmith, the #1 leadership coach in the world, Thinkers 50, which is the management of Oscars, Hall of Famer, who will also be a speaker at the President's Summit in 2021. I asked him if he would participate if we did something like this. And he was absolutely thrilled about the idea. He's so supportive, a tremendous person in general. And so he joined us. We had no idea how many people who would tune in, but I think more than around 1,500, 2,000 people registered for the first masterclass across like 60 countries or something like that. An absolutely amazing experience, and it just inspired us to do more. The week after, we then interviewed the CEO of, at that point, UN Global Compact, and one of the leading CEOs in Denmark to have a conversation around sustainability. and it just grew from there. We thought it was something that we might maybe do for 5 episodes, 5 weeks or something like that. But we received an overwhelming amount of support from our business community, but also grew our business community to other fantastic people, such as yourself, for instance. And, we welcomed amazing speakers on a weekly basis that wanted to support this mission. And therefore, we didn't see ourselves stop after those 5 weeks. And now I think we're closing in our 30th episode. We're booked with speakers throughout all of November, I think December as well, then half into January or something like that. So it will at least keep going for another couple of months, and hopefully something that we will continue to do on a weekly basis, along with our annual President Summit Conference in Copenhagen, to also help and inspire companies and leaders who might not be able to fly to Copenhagen at that point in time, or at any point in time, but that we can still reach and help.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you post past master classes? Is it something that people are able to see? Say they're working at the time that you have the master classes, are they able to do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's actually funny you should ask that, because we originally we thought, since we do only 5 episodes, we didn't want to launch the recording of it because we wanted to be exclusive. You have to tune in live. That's the whole point of the thing. And also we wanted to gather maybe 5 episodes so we could launch like a mini series, right? But then that just grew, and we haven't actually gone to the point where we have launched these on YouTube. So we have all this amazing content lying, which is not really accessible anywhere. We have the files, so if anybody emails us or says, hey, I've signed up for this fantastic masterclass, but I will for some reason not be able to participate. Do you mind sending me the recording afterwards? We can still do that, and at some point in time they will be live on YouTube. But for now, it's actually you got to email our team to get access to it. I will, however, say that we do a lot in terms of making sure that the live experience is worth watching live. One of the key things for us at the President Summit is to differentiate between an attendee being a viewer and an attendee, meaning we want you to join in live because you get the chance to really speak with this, amazing speaker that is on. Ask the questions. Could be, hey, Christy, amazing topic you're addressing. I have this challenge at my current workplace. How would you address that, right? So it becomes very personal. And also there are hundreds, if not thousands of other people on this call, and you can engage with them in the chat section. You can, exchange LinkedIn informations, emails, and so forth. So the whole point of it, from our perspective, has also grown to hopefully build, I guess you can call it almost an online community, but on the side. I love to see how other people think about what the speaker's opinion is, what they think, stories from their life where they can relate to something similar. That's the whole point about it. Otherwise, we could all just be sitting on YouTube watching everything in replay. But it's like attending that football game, right? There is a certain feeling about watching things live, being in the moment, and not just catching up on things whenever you can do it.
I absolutely agree with you. And there really is nothing like watching some of these live and seeing the number of people that are asking questions and participating. And that has much greater value than just watching, the replay, so to speak. So you're absolutely correct, and that's good. And I think it was Casper that sent me the link for Kwik so that I could share it with my community, because and that's great that people, if by chance they can't attend, they can contact you to say, hey, I really am interested, but for whatever circumstances they can't. But you do put a very good point on the value of being there live, because it is a different experience. It is.
It is, and I would also say, I mean, we have amazing people attending the masterclasses, such as yourself, and I mean, for other people to tune in and get your point of view on things as well, get other people's point of views, not just the speakers. You won't be able to see that when you watch something as a recording. You won't be able to see the chat sections, the questions that are being addressed in the Q&A section by other people and so forth. We often also share, different brochures or articles, other stuff in the handout section. You won't be able to access that. We from time to time launch an exclusive offer for people to attend our President's Summit in Copenhagen, which of course will not be accessible for people who are watching it on demand and afterwards. I'll still get back to my point about, yes, it will be live at some point. It will be on YouTube. We don't want to hold all this content just to ourselves. We want it out eventually. That's the whole purpose of it. But I will say, more so than I actually thought in the beginning, there's tremendous upsides to attending it live, because there are so many added benefits than just the speaker who's touching on this certain topic.
Absolutely. And like you said before, it is that asking the question in the chat, being able to see it, being able to, wow, that person really, that's a really good question. Or somebody that might not say, well, that's probably not a good question. And then somebody else asks the question that you're thinking. So there is much more value in doing it live. Now I'm going to share with you a clip of one of the master's classes that President Summit does so that you can hear and see the value of attending these master classes live. This is the master class done a few weeks ago with Jim Kwik.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Masterclass by President Summit, where we will address principles for unleashing your brain to learn faster. With us today, we have none other than New York Times bestselling author and CEO of Kwik Learning, Jim Kwik. As always, you can ask as many questions as you want in the Q&A section. Also, please share your point of view in the chat section. Jim will start off by giving a brief presentation, and after that, we will open up for the Q&A.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Frederik, and everyone who's joining us right now. And I'm excited to share with you very tangible things you could do right now to upgrade your brain, learn anything faster, and unlock your exceptional life. And this will be based on research of my recent book called Limitless. And wow, we have a real international global attendees here. So I want to thank you for showing up. I believe half of success is showing up, the other half is playing full out. So continue to post in the chat here. We'll turn this into a real masterclass. And my goal here today is to make this next 60 minutes so powerful for you, where you have real, not only inspiration, but real instruction on how to level up your learning so you can level up your life. And it's a real honor to be here with policymakers and investors, entrepreneurs, leaders in your own field, because right now, we live in interesting times. And with my book called Limitless, the question I always get is, Jim, how do you become limitless in a limited world? It's very aspirational. And for me, my answer is we do it together. And that's exactly what we're doing here in this community. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to talk about things you could do right now, immediately, that's going to make a difference in helping you come out of this stronger and smarter, wiser. And the metaphor that I use is that of a butterfly. I mean, just think about it. A butterfly is a profound symbol of transformation. And it's kind of like we are going through a transformation. We're going through a different cycle. It could be an economic cycle. It's a planetary cycle where we're going, maybe think about a caterpillar going into a cocoon, right? And you might feel like you're cocooning. You're physically distancing yourself, and you might feel alone with your thoughts, alone with your doubts. You might be feeling alone. So how can you emerge out of this cocoon stronger? So you have wings that could fly. And what's the story? My question and I encourage you to take notes, because I'm going to go rapid fire, because this is a masterclass. What's the story you want to tell? And we're going to work backwards from that, because Limitless is not about being perfect. Limitless is about progressing and advancing beyond what you believe is possible. And that's my goal for you today. Now, we go back to this metaphor. Sometimes we have angst or we have stress because some people, they want to cling to the previous cycle, right? What causes them pain and some like they're uncomfortable because they're trying to hold on to something that's in the past. And my goal, instead of progressing through this cycle, like all of you right now, none of you are compensated and rewarded for your brute strength. It's your brain strength. It's not your muscle power. It's your mind power. Yet more people upgrade the technology of their phones or their apps or their computers more than they upgrade the most important technology, which is found between your ears, which is the human brain. Now, right in the book, I have a quote, and I would invite you to write it down. It's from a French philosopher, and he says, life is the C between B and D. Life is C between B and D. Now you're thinking, Jim, you're speaking in tongues, you're speaking in code. What does that mean? Translate that for me. Well, B stands for birth. D stands for death. So what's life? C, choice, choice. I believe that these difficult times can define us, or these difficult times can diminish us, or these difficult times can develop us. Ultimately, we decide. Going back to the metaphor of a butterfly, you know that while the beauty is in the butterfly, the growth happens where? In the cocoon. The growth happens in the cocoon. It's that creature's willingness to be able to struggle that it develops strength to be able to fly and soar to new heights. And so if you want to soar to new heights, what are 6 choices or 6 decisions you can make while you are cocooning to emerge wiser, smarter, wealthier, stronger? So let's go through it very quickly. I'm going to give you 6 C's. All right, so let's go through the quick 6 things you could do immediately. What are 6 choices you, your family, your team can make to be able to emerge stronger as that transformed butterfly? So the first C, I'm going to go through 6 C's, and I tend to alliterate everything to make it easy to remember. The first C is clarity. Clarity. I believe clarity is a superpower. Clarity is power. What's most important to me in life? Meaning sometimes when you're going really fast and you're racing through the day, rarely do we take a pause and a breath and say, am I going in the right direction? So the clarifying question is, what's most important to me in blank? What's most important to me in life? What's most important to me in business? What's most important to me in hiring or in my relationships? What's most important to me? Fill in the blank. Now, the second clarifying question is this: are my actions aligned with those values? A lot of times we aren't burnt out because we're doing too much. A lot of times we're burnt out because we're doing too little of the things that make us come alive, the things that we value. The second choice you could make besides clarity is care. We know self-care is not selfish. Self-care is not selfish. And I don't just mean physical hygiene, washing your hands or wearing a mask 6 feet, or I mean mental hygiene. Do you know, like when you're on social media, there's an algorithm that if you're going through social media and you engage, whatever you engage with the most, you get more of. Have you ever noticed that? So if you're engaging with the cat posts and you're watching all the cat videos and you're liking and sharing and commenting on all those cat posts, what's going to happen with the algorithm on Instagram or on Facebook? It's going to show you more cats. Well, your mind has a similar algorithm. And so if you're just looking at what's dark or threatening and scary, which it's interesting because if it bleeds, it leads, right? Media knows that. And it hijacks part of your brain called your amygdala because you, for survival, have to pay attention to what is threatening. The challenge is it also has that algorithm like social media. So if you're just watching the news and you see what's dark and threatening, then what you're training your mind to do is to give you more of that. And then your news feed, your mental feed here becomes everything that's negative. And here's the challenge. You have a limited bandwidth in terms of your conscious attention. So that means where are you not putting the spotlight? You don't have energy or focus or attention going towards opportunity, towards possibility, towards the things that you could be grateful for for example. The third C, you have clarity, you have care. The third C is contribution. Chronic stress has been shown to shrink the human brain. When you're in fight or flight, you're not going to get the most out of, that's not the best state to be in when you're studying, or you need to give a presentation to board members, or you need to be on the media, right? So that stress is actually when you create cortisol and adrenaline, it shuts down big parts of your brain. And so here's the thing, what gets you out of stress? Things like gratitude, as we're talking about, but also contribution. Did you know actually chronic fear suppresses your immune system? It makes you more susceptible to colds, to flus, to viruses. A whole area of science called psychoneuroimmunology. And what overcomes fear? I would say two easy things. Gratitude, the simple exercise of just being grateful for what you have, that will take you out of that fight or flight or that fear. Also, the second thing is contribution. Focusing. When we focus on service, we focus on somebody else, it takes our attention off of ourselves. And I believe that contribution is like the question to get to your contribution. How can I invest some of my time, my talent, or my treasure to make a difference? The 4C, clarity, care, contribution. The 4C is creativity. I believe the future belongs to the creatives. Going back to creativity, did you know it was during the Great Plague when Shakespeare created some of his most amazing works, some of his most amazing masterpieces, Macbeth, Antony and Cleopatra. It was when they shut down London and the university there that Isaac Newton had to physically distance himself, and he was at home and sitting underneath a tree, and an apple fell on his head, and he created what? The theories of motion, the theories of gravity. And you don't have to create at that level, but what have you always wanted to create? I would say the fifth one that we could talk about right here are capabilities. You have a to-do list. How many of you, by a show of yeses, how many of or me's have a to-do list? Well, do you have a to-learn list? When people see pictures of me and Oprah or Bill Gates or Elon Musk, Richard Branson, we bonded over books. Leaders are readers. And so what's on your to-learn list? What's on your to-read list also as well? And that's the ultimate advantage. I believe that the skill to learn is learning how to learn, because leaders are always learning. And the faster you can learn, the faster you could earn, because knowledge is not only power. Today, knowledge is profit. And so a big takeaway here is if there's one skill to master in the 21st century, it's your ability to learn faster, right? And here's why. It's interesting, because it's kind of like another, going back to 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. One of the habits was begin in the mind, that ladder metaphor. But another one was also sharpen the saw. The 7th habit is sharpen the saw. If you have all this wood you need to cut, and we do, right? Our to-do list, all the things we need to do and be busy with, but you have a dull blade. When's the best time to sharpen that saw? Right? You don't want to wait. You don't want to work hard and struggle and suffer with a dull blade. You want to sharpen it first. Well, learning how to learn will help you with everything else after this every single day. So capability, what do you want to learn? And put learning how to learn right on top. Now, by the way, there's a quote from Eric Ries, who wrote Lean Startup, says the only way to win is to learn faster than anyone else, right? Jack Welch, iconic CEO, says an organization's ability to learn and translate that learning into action rapidly is the ultimate competitive advantage. So that's the power of learning how to learn. Now, the 6th C after capability is what? Can you guess it? What do you think the 6th C would be? What's a choice you can make? I would say we're doing it right now, and that's community. Right now, it's not just your neurological networks or your biological networks, it's your social networks, because who you spend time with is who you become. They say be careful of spending time with 9 broke people, because you're on your way to be number 10. Now, the reason why they say we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with is in your nervous system, you have something called mirror neurons. And this is your imitation neurons. It's one of the reasons why children are such fast learners, because they imitate. They don't do what you say, they do what you do, right? And here's the thing. You are always, your mind with these mirror neurons, you're always adapting and adopting the people around you. You're using their language. You start adopting their behaviors. You start, doing their habits and maintain, their character also as well, who you spend time with. And we all need this, exactly what you have in the chat. This is amazing, right? Because we all need people to encourage us. We all need people to challenge us, to educate us, to cheerlead for us, to tell us the truth, right? And if you haven't found that person yet, my recommendation is to be that person for someone else. Be that person for somebody else, especially be that person for who? Be that person for yourself, right?
Now back to our interview with Frederik Linderberg, CEO of President Summit. The vision, the mission of the masterclasses of the summit is to help people, to influence them, and people. So someone like me, someone who is, starting out, building the network, because this is something that, as I'm listening to a lot of the different things on the website and the videos, that networking is key. And I can't agree more with that. So why is networking such a fundamental part of the President's Summit?
A great question. I think networking is a fundamental part of not only President Summit, but every business in the world at this point and going forward. There's the old saying, people buy people, and that's a saying that I think I believe in, I can relate to. I mean, nobody wants to do business or even eat dinner with other people that they don't genuinely like. And we've all experienced certain moments in our lives where knowing a person has benefited us over probably somebody who didn't know them. Maybe you got that extra job interview, or you got that credibility because somebody could vouch for you, or you've eaten dinner with that one person at some point. And it don't all have to be business related. It's also just about building relationships and being there for each other. I think there's so many, the world is constantly changing right now. Technology is going through the roof. We will have jobs in 5 to 10 years that we couldn't imagine just 2 years ago, and so forth and back. And I think it just becomes very, very important that people can lean on other people in similar, situations, learn from them. What do you do? What should I do? How can we help each other, and so forth? And we've just seen that at the President's Summit. So one of the things that we do focus a lot on is how do we help people connect with each other? I can say this because I'm Danish, and I don't think any Dane will necessarily disagree with me, but Danes can be somewhat shy in terms of like speaking to new people. I've lived twice in the US. You guys are much more open-minded. You will ask, how was your day? If you're sitting next to each other on a bus or something like that, you will not experience that in Denmark. So we always got to think, how is it that we help people get in contact with each other? And we have therefore designed a networking app which is accessible to any person who is a ticket holder of the President's Summit for the actual conference, which allows you to book one-on-one meetings with any attendee at the President's Summit. And you actually get assigned a table for 15 minutes where you could then host a private meeting, and then you can always decide to book further meetings from there. Wow. So it's a fantastic tool, and it's something that helps especially Scandinavian people a lot, because it breaks that first barrier, which is tapping a person on the shoulder and saying, hi, can I learn something from you, basically, right? Do you want to talk? This helps with that. So this could be an app, for instance, like you, Christy, you tuned in and said, wow, I really want to speak with Frederik. Let me ask if he would be open for that. And then you could just text me like any other messaging system. And I could, accept that, and we'll get assigned a table for 15 minutes and the conversation goes on there. So a lot of people actually, I'd say a lot of people come to President Summit for the speakers, for the content, for the experience, but just as many come because of all the valuable networking that is there. And that is because you can easily, check off maybe 10 meetings that you would otherwise have in a year. you can get that over the course of the 2 days. You might also be able to book meetings with people you normally wouldn't get in contact with because they're super busy, you don't really know them. Now you already have something to talk about. It could be, hey, how was this fantastic speaker, Marshall Goldsmith, that was just on stage? What was your take on him? And then you have that opening line to start the conversation. So I think there are multiple aspects to why networking is so relevant, both now and going forward. But I think some of these pointers are, at least some of the variables.
Yes. Wow. That's truly amazing, because you don't usually find that at conferences.
No.
None that I've been to, and I've been to. But that is that's tremendous.
Yeah.
For people, for networking, for just learning. You know, imagine being able to sit there and talk to someone that you admire, you really want to know something more about them, and that's fabulous. That's incredible. What now? As I was reading in this, it says one of the things that you do is that usually you have the 45 minutes throughout the seminars, but then there's something called the next stage.
Yeah.
Is that the same as the networking?
No, so great question. So the next stage, it will be the first time ever that we will have an additional stage at the President's Summit. So the way that the President's Summit works is that we have these amazing speakers and we have one enormous stage for all of them. We have like a 30-meter LED screen, or in yards, like 36 yards, 40 yards, something like that. Amazing LED screen where all our main keynote speakers are on. But we then thought to ourselves that given that this time it will be across 2 days and not only 1 day, and we have an amazing amount of speakers actually reaching out to us wanting to, speak at the President's Summit. They want to be present. They want to tell their stories. They want to teach people and so forth. And many of them are actually, amazing speakers. But obviously we can't just host every person in the world. So we can't welcome just everyone. But we thought to ourselves, how can we then create more fantastic content for the members, I want to call them, of the President's Summit, or any ticket buyer, any attendee. And therefore we decided that during the networking breaks, rather than, so everybody's in listening, all 3,000 people are in listening to this amazing speaker, and then all 3,000 people are out networking. We then thought during that networking break, we'll have another stage. And then we thought to ourselves, well, we can't just have, we can have another stage. But what should the theme be around? Like, why should there be an additional stage? What should the content be? We have a lot of great speakers, but is it just going to be the same as the main stage and then just with a less known speaker, or how is that going to work? We then brainstormed about it, and we thought to ourselves, well, there's so many, again, interesting things going on in the world right now. So many interesting things. And there's so many new things going on, which might not be relevant to all 3,000 people, but might be highly interesting and relevant to, say, 300 or 500 people. So therefore, the next stage has its name because it focuses on the next big thing or the next big topic. So it could have been, sustainability a couple of years ago, for instance, and we'll probably still focus on it because it's still a major issue. It could be on blockchain, could be on the future of CFO services, could be on 5G, IoT, whatever it is, AI or something like that, right? But some of the topics that are, I guess you can call it still fairly niche, but will have a huge impact on the world in the future. We will address that there, and we will also hopefully try and have some speakers that are a bit under the radar right now, but will be huge in the following years. So that's the purpose of the next stage. It's really just, again, to create even more fantastic content, more inspiration, more knowledge for our amazing attendees. But it still serves a different purpose than the main stage.
That's incredible. That's great. That's great. So, I mean, and as you're saying that, the one thing that comes to my mind is, a lot of things are in technology right now. However, I'm just gonna I'm gonna throw this out there and see what you think about it. What do you? So I mean, as far as, and I don't know what schooling is like in Denmark. However, when you think about the education system, how do you feel that the education system itself, do you feel that it is moving along with the times, or that it is staying in its traditional as it was?
Oof, that is
Sorry.
that is a tough one. That is a tough one, and especially well, to be completely transparent, I'd say I give a pretty political answer and say both yes and no. I think there are a lots of things that sort of needs to change with the educational system. I think and that's just my perspective on things. I think we're educating people like we did 20, 30 years ago, though the world has changed drastically since then. I myself was in the middle of my master's degree, and I didn't feel like I was getting that output, the same output that I wanted and as I expected. But frankly, I was doing a master's degree because I want to say it was almost frowned upon if I didn't do it, because a master's degree is free in Denmark, which is fantastic. Education is free in Denmark, which is absolutely amazing. But it also almost, labels people as, well, you need to have a bachelor and you need to have a master's degree, because why wouldn't you?
Right.
Well, you wouldn't, because things have changed so much. The knowledge that people could consume 30 years ago, they might be able to consume at a much faster broad span than ever before, right? Because now you have YouTube, you have podcasts, you have all these amazing things where you can consume knowledge. So I think it's frankly quite old school that the system is still set up in that same way. Mm-hmm. However, I of course still highly respect and value and admire education. It's the fundamental thing of everything that we do. Jim Kwik just spoke about it himself. If you can pick one superpower, why not pick how to learn, right? Mm-hmm. Because that will also be that one capability that will differentiate people in the future, right? Your ability to learn and adapt and learn new things, and your ability and speed to learn and everything like that. But that's personally why I decided to jump on this journey rather than actually finishing my master's degree. And then I would also say that I once got a very, very, I think, valuable piece of advice, which was to differentiate between risk and uncertainty. Mm-hmm. Meaning I had a lot of uncertainty around my choice of dropping out of my master's degree after I've been at Columbia and everything, and then pursuing, I guess you can call it a business career at that point, especially within conferences, which I had, no experience within. I just bought in on the vision and the culture and the work mindset here, and the people that were there, the people that I knew I could learn from. So there was a lot of uncertainties around that choice, but there were really no risks. I could always go back and finish that master's degree. I could always move back to Denmark. I could probably always find a nice apartment again and something like that. So the risks were quite low, a lot of uncertainties. But I don't think I have ever once experienced a person who have regretted that they stepped out of their comfort zone and learned something new, right? And that's what uncertainty is about. It's about exploring uncertainties, broadening your comfort zone, which there's a huge difference between that and risk. And then back to your point about the whole educational system. Well, I think one of the main reasons why we do the President Summit Conference and also these global masterclasses is that right now it seems that a lot of people are graduating from their educational system in their mid-20s or late 20s, and then that's it. Then you're good for the next 40, 50, whatever years in business, right, in the market. And I think that's somewhat ignorant, right? Why do you have to learn every year, every day, your first 20, 25, 30 years, but then after that, apparently you've learned everything, you're good from now. So it's about constantly learning, getting exposed to new topics through new people. Hopefully we will bring in some speakers that people weren't familiar with just yet. That's why we always call them world leading experts, because we're trying to find these world leading experts. Doesn't really matter what subject it is. You of course always got to put it and be business related, right? Because that's our community. But as long as we can do that and continuously inspire, continuously learn, continuously knowledge share, we will have to do that in order to stay competitive and stay successful throughout many years ahead.
Yes, that's amazing. It truly is amazing, and in the sense of what you said on that, and I think that probably a lot of that initial, fear maybe so of, you leaving your masters, and I think a lot of that is probably your conscious, your mind that's already been preconditioned, like, but this is what I'm supposed to do. And you go and you get your master's, and I'm supposed to complete it, but if I don't complete it, then it's kind of like you said, going out of your comfort zone, but going out of what kind of sort of what society has said, these are the steps that you're supposed to take along the way, and you're not supposed to diverge from that. And if you do, then you kind of did like a little Robert Frost, The Road Less Taken type thing, where you took the road less taken, and look at you now, and I think that really is something that children, the youth of today, college, university, they really need to be taught that in high school, in university, that, what, there is no set mold. Mold is whatever brings you happiness and joy. You need to find a way to go towards that, and it might not be a master's degree.
And it's also, I mean, you at least what I have experienced is that a lot of people look at, obviously the older generation saying, hey, I want a job like that guy, so I'm looking at what did that guy do, and then I will repeat that. But that is, I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong, but that's somewhat of a misinterpretation, because that person did that 15, 20 years ago. And at that point in time, that wasn't normal. He or she might have taken the road less traveled, right? If you wanted to be, I don't know, a McKinsey consultant or something like that, and a person did something extraordinary, and now you think, okay, I'll do that as well. No, they were the first movers to do that, or something different, right? So they set themselves apart from the flock. And I think that's very, very important. But I completely agree with you. I think it also comes back to what sort of community do you have backing you up? And that's mainly your closest friends and your family. I would probably never have made the decision to drop out of my master's degree if my parents weren't supportive of it, if my friends weren't supportive of it, and so forth. Because there's still to this day, and it's only been 15 months or so, or 18 months. But I mean, there's still people who, have a really fair assumption, I believe, which is, well, you might have difficulties finding a job in Denmark because, they will look at other people and say, well, they have a master's degree, right? They've done the safe choice, the safe route and everything. And I completely agree. And I respect that. And it's a chance that I've taken. I have lived both now in London, in New York, in Los Angeles, and there it's pretty common, right, that people only have a bachelor's degree. It's not normal that you have a master's degree in those countries. So it's probably less of a risk if you want to work any of those places. But if you want to go back to Denmark, I think that there are plenty of companies that would have my profile, and then a person straight out of uni with a master's degree and basically no work experience, and they would pick them over me. I'm not saying that's not the right choice, because it could most certainly be. I just think that's the educational system and the way of thinking in Denmark. And maybe I'm wrong because I haven't applied for another job in Denmark, but that's at least the assumption that I'm living with.
But I do think that's true for a lot of things, though, too, in the sense of, you don't have enough experience, or there isn't enough experience. And well, how do you get experience if you don't be given the opportunity to have that experience? However, I think your experiences in this case probably outweigh the master's degree in that sense. And so, but the one thing that you did state about, people trying to imitate or copy what somebody had done, 20 years ago, if they did this, then I can do this. However, there are specific steps, isn't necessarily what you should do exactly. It's those key things like determination, perseverance, hard work that you need to focus in on, because that's really what got them to where they achieved, not necessarily the specific things that they did. And like you said, that was 20 years ago. What they did specifically is going to be different from today. We're not going to go and invent a car like Henry Ford did, because it's already been done. However, we are going to learn from the fact that he never gave into failure, and that's a lesson.
That's very true. That's very true. But it's sort of the same thing. And I have a great friend and many great friends that work at Google. But I actually had a roommate who worked at Google. But it's sort of the same thing there, right? You see people working at Google now, and it's very, I don't want to say flamboyant, but it's prestigious, right? It's a fantastic working place. It's a fantastic company. But working at Google now is very, very different than people who worked for Google 15, 20 years ago, right? It's a whole different mentality, and the people that worked there, that built that's a whole different person than the people that are now working there, right? Because they probably didn't have the same benefits and like you do now.
I agree with that, and that's incredible. What message would you give personally? I mean, you're young, so what message would you give to maybe teens just going through high school right now, maybe about to graduate, and even those in university who are struggling and just saying they're doing it because they're doing it, but they don't really know why?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to inspire them at this moment, to find their passion, to move towards what it is that ultimately will create a good future for them?
It's a fantastic question, and I say this with the most respect possible. I don't really think I'm qualified to actually answer that question, because I still have so much to learn myself. But I will say, however, at least just a piece of advice is probably thinking about the difference between uncertainty and risk. That is really something that I have taken with me. And I also really do think that, think about it as nobody has ever regretted stepping out of their comfort zone. Just like nobody has ever regretted, working out. You've never come back from a run and said, wow, I shouldn't have done that, right? There's a lot of thoughts going into that run saying you shouldn't, reasons for why not doing it, and so forth. And that will be the same as decisions that will force you out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. There will be so many thoughts that will tell you not to do that. But I won't necessarily say I'll promise you one thing like you normally do in these motivational speeches, but I will say I have never experienced myself or heard about anybody who regretted stepping out of their comfort zone, as long as you weigh the uncertainties versus the risks. Of course, if you have a family to provide for, a sick mother, or kids at home or something else like that, you might want to take the safer route, and you might not, but you might. And there's mortgages to pay and so forth. There's consequences to the choices that you make. But I think when you're in high school, even at uni or something like that, and especially for myself, just speaking from my experience, there are so many opportunities in this world, and there are, it's just about catching some of them, right? There's a saying that when the ball goes, when there's a corner kick, right, and the ball goes flying in between the goalposts, you can either hit it or you can let it pass, right? You can either swing the bat at that chance or you can let it pass. And I think that's very, very important to remember. And then I'd also say just be curious. Be curious to learn more. Why are things the way that they are? Why am I doing this? don't necessarily question everything, but just stop up every once in a while and say, why is it that I am studying this master's degree? Why am I not studying this master's degree? Why is it that we are doing these things? I think that's an important question to stop up every once in a while and ask yourselves, because if you don't have a question to that, then it might be time to sort of look around for something else.
Excellent answer. Excellent response. I love it. So very good. So as kind of to wrap up and come to an end, what would you, how can people participate in the master classes and the President's Summit?
Yeah. Fantastic question. I'll say the easiest, by far easiest thing is probably to follow us on LinkedIn, since everyone is on social media these days. Follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook or something like that, but especially I'd say LinkedIn. Follow us. We will post all the upcoming masterclasses on LinkedIn, which you can sign up for entirely for free. You can also go on our website and sign up for our newsletter, where we will also distribute the information and the content. And then I will say, take a second to either share that you are participating in it, share it with a friend, either online, mouth to mouth, whatever works for you. But just know that hopefully you have taken something away from that masterclass or that conference, and potentially it could help somebody else. And anyone is more than welcome to reach out to myself on LinkedIn. And with any thoughts, I'd also love to hear your stories, and especially if you have taken maybe I guess you can call it a leap of faith, or have been inspired by a masterclass that you have attended or something like that. It is those small and little stories that motivates myself and the team to do what we do, because obviously a lot of times goes into it, but it's always a pleasure when you see the outcome of the work that you do.